Hello, welcome to this guide. As you see today, we're going to be talking about how to make success feel effortless. We're going to go over multiple areas, and this video will help you increase your ability to achieve success without having any resistance, and it will help you a lot with your overall life. So let's get into it. How to make success feel effortless. Firstly, what effortless achievement really means. So most people are chasing success the wrong way. They believe success comes from more force, more pressure, more urgency, more self-criticism. They think the harder something is, the more likely it will help them achieve that idea of success. But you need to get that false idea out of your head, because doing harder things, picking the path that has most resistance, is not going to help you achieve more success. It's actually going to help you achieve less success and likely have a harder path to success. So what happens is these people, they try to push their way forward. They try to push towards success instead of letting success happen to them. But if you pay attention, the moments where you perform at your highest level, the moments where things seem to click and everything seems to accelerate, that flow state, right? Those moments don't feel heavy. They feel light. It's a weird flow state where everything just connects so perfectly. It feels clear. It feels calm. And it almost feels inevitable that you're going to become successful. So what we need to figure out is, okay, how do we make it so that flow state of success where everything feels so light, how do we make that feel constant? So we constantly feel like we're in that flow state. So what you need to understand is effortless success is not the absence of work. It's the absence of internal resistance. What we have inside of us is this resistance. We're resistant to success. We're resistant to change. So what we do is we try to argue with our own selves. We don't let things flow naturally. We try to fight things. And so this video is about understanding where that resistance comes from, psychologically, biologically, philosophically, and how to dissolve it without becoming passive or complacent. Because a lot of people, they'll remove that resistance, but when they remove it, they start to become very complacent, very comfortable in the current position they are in their life. So we need to figure out how do we remove that resistance, how do we figure out where it comes from, then remove it. And instead of letting that movement of resistance lead us to comfort, how do we instead change it to lead us in order to become more successful? So the core misunderstanding: why effort feels necessary. So we were taught this throughout school. We were taught this throughout childhood. We were taught that the struggle is the proof of progress. If something feels hard, we assume that it must be meaningful, right? If something takes time, if something was difficult to do, it's meaningful. But the truth is, that's not always the case, right? We believe this from school. It's hard to get good grades. We have to study. We have to put in the work. We see the result. And we're taught this system, but we need to dissolve this system which we were taught, because it's actually hurting us from achieving success. We also believe if something feels easy, we suspect we're doing it wrong. But that is not the case. We want things to feel easy. We want success and all these things that our goal is to come to us naturally, to the point where it feels like we don't even have to put hard work into it, just naturally comes. But difficulty is not the same as effectiveness. Effort becomes necessary only when systems are misaligned. It's when your mind wants one thing, your emotions fear another, and your body is stuck in this state where your nervous system is stuck in stress. An effortless achievement emerges when these layers stop contradicting each other. So what happens is, let's say your mind wants one goal, but then your mind, okay, let's say your mind wants to build a successful business, but your emotions fear the fear of failure. Your emotions are constantly blocking you from there because you fear failure. And that what happens is your body gets stuck in stress. So what happens is your mind wants that goal, but your nervous system, your body is stuck into this state of fear and stress. And as animals, as our primal ancestry, we don't want to be in that state of fear. We're only in fear when we're getting hunted or we're hunting. So we want to instantly get out of that fear as much as possible, but you're living in that fear, so you don't want to achieve success because you would rather not be in fear and live in comfort. So the paradox of effortless achievement is, the more you need success, the harder it becomes to achieve. So when you feel like you need to become successful, right? You're going to know this a lot. When you feel like you're aiming towards something and you have to achieve it, it's going to feel harder to achieve. So what we need to do, what you notice is you become the most creative. You think the most fluidly. You have the best ideas of how you're going to become successful when you feel like it doesn't really matter, right? When you have a goal and you don't really need that goal, it doesn't feel life or death. So the more you need success, let's say you feel like you need success, so you're going to die. Let's say if you don't create that successful business, your life's gonna you're screwed. You're not going to be successful. If that business doesn't work out, you're screwed. What happens is it becomes harder to achieve that thing because your body is acting towards it in a state of fear. So we need to change that, and we need to reduce the tension it brings. So you need to change the way your brain thinks about these things, because when success starts to feel like validation, when it starts to feel like safety, identity, your self-worth, every action you do, it carries emotional weight, and that weight creates friction of what you want to be, and that friction is what turns simple action into exhausting labor. Doing something is going to feel so exhausting. It's going to have so much mental toll. You're going to post a video and you're going to be so attached to the outcome. Oh, how many likes did I get? Oh, how many views did this video get? And that attachment to the outcome, it causes you to be so exhausted because you're just so attached to, okay, how do people perceive me? How do people like me? And you're not going to be able to think as clear as you can. You're not going to be able to be as creative as you can because you're just so attached to this outcome instead of the input. So effortlessness doesn't come from caring less. It comes from needing less. So you need less outcome in order to feel like what you're doing is correct. For example, a physics model, it's laminar flow versus turbulent flow. In fluid dynamics, movement breaks down into two primary states. There's laminar flow, which is smooth. It's directional. It has minimum energy loss. It requires minimum energy, and you just move the smoothest. There's no struggle to it, right? And the turbulent flow is chaotic. It's inefficient. It drains your energy. Now, we can apply this internally. When your thoughts are scattered and your emotions are reactive and your nervous system is just tense, you create this internal turbulence. In the same amount as effort, it produces less progress. So you can, let's say one person is in a state of laminar flow and the other person is in a state of turbulent flow. That person who is in laminar flow, they're going to be able to produce more doing the same amount as effort, the same amount as energy as that person who is turbulent flow. So you have to change yourself from being in this fight or flight, fear responsive, so emotionally attached to success, weird state, and you need to instead just create this state where you don't really care, where you don't really have that much care for it. I have a mentor. This mentor, he's about 30 years old. He's already made millions and millions of dollars online, so he's already like financially free. He could retire at any point, but he does it for the love of the game. And this mentor me, where he taught me how to create an app. So I'm building an app right now, and he created an app. He launched his app about 2 months ago, right? Just some random meditation app. He doesn't really care about meditation. He created this app, and he scaled it to $30,000 a month in 2 months. So in 2 months, he was able to scale a mobile app to $30K a month because he didn't care. He had no attachment to the outcome. He would post videos. He wasn't like emotionally attached to, okay, if they didn't perform. He thought about it in a very analytical and strategic way. If a video performed wrong, he didn't really care. He's like, okay, boom, let me do this to fix it. What happens is so many people, they get attached to the outcome, and if something they do doesn't perform well, they think it's their own failure, but all that does is create this turbulent flow. So you have to think about things in a very analytical way, not a emotional, energy draining, chaotic way. So you have to change from turbulent flow to laminar flow. So what you need to understand is effortless success. It happens when your internal system enters laminar flow. Laminar flow, your thoughts are quiet, your emotions are stable, action moves cleanly. And the reason why some days feel easy and other days feel impossible is there's multiple reasons for this. Think about your best days. Think about the days where you were just the most productive, you got the most work done, you had the most creative ideas, and you were just overall the best version of yourself. You still worked hard, you still faced challenges, but everything felt lighter. When a problem came your way, when diversity came your way, you were able to naturally just get over it. You naturally found a way to conquer it. You weren't constantly checking yourself. You weren't obsessed over outcomes. You weren't fighting your own mind. You weren't, let's say you post a video, you weren't just checking that video. You just posted a video. You didn't really care. You check again, oh, it's viral, right? So you have to think about your worst days. Nothing changed externally. Nothing changed externally from your worst days to your best days. Only thing that changed was internally. You were tense. You were impatient. When something bad happened, you were so scared over it and you put so much energy towards, okay, what do I do? What do I do? Oh my gosh. You were over monitoring the progress. So you were super attached to the outcome, and you put so much value, so much energy into, okay, what's the outcome of this thing? You didn't put the energy into the input. You were so concerned on the output. And the difference of this isn't discipline. It's not willpower. It's not motivation. The difference was your internal resistance. Let me get a drink of my tea, please. The three hidden sources of internal turbulence. So these are the three hidden sources of what is causing you to have so much internal turbulence. The first one is mental overactivity. Most people live in a constant thought loops, right? They're in their mind, they're constantly, they wake up, they're in the shower, whatever task they're doing, their mind is planning, it's replaying events, it's predicting events, and it's judging events that you had that already happened. So what happens is your mind never has a chance to reset because it's constantly in this state. So this creates decision fatigue. You're creating all these like events in your head, and it's crazy, right? You're creating these events in your head, and you're like trying to like create decisions for things that aren't even real. So you're wasting your energy on things that aren't even real so quickly, constantly. So this creates decision fatigue, reduced creativity, premature exhaustion. When thinking never shuts down, action becomes draining before it even begins. So you need to understand, when your mind's constantly racing, you're constantly thinking about thoughts which aren't even real, things that haven't even happened in reality, it just drains your brain. So what you need to also understand is the second cause is emotional overinvestment. When outcomes feel personal, everything becomes heavy. You're not just starting a business, you're not just posting content, you're not just going to the gym training your body, you're proving something. You're proving something to yourself, to others, to the future. In that emotional overinvestment, it converts neutral actions into external events. So when something negative happens, like you post a video and people are making fun of you for that video, you treat it so personally. You get so attached to it. It's the same thing when people are praising you for a video. If you post a video, everyone's praising you, and you get so attached to that and you feel amazing. The second you post a video and people are speaking about you negatively, you get so attached to it. In that emotional overinvestment causes so much turbulence because you're just using so much energy, and any bad thing that happens, your mind gets in this chaotic state. You get so fear. When you're emotionally overinvested in something, when something goes wrong, your nervous system gets into this fear-based thinking. So you're going to start thinking out of fear. Just like in our ancestral days, let's say when you're getting attacked by an animal, you're so fearful, your mind's not thinking correctly. It's the same thing that happens when you're emotionally invested in something. So you have to break emotional overinvestment. The third one is fear-based action. Fear-based action sounds like this. I can't afford to mess this up. If this fails, I'm behind other people. I need this to work. I need to be successful. I need to achieve this by this date. I need to be making 10K a month by April 1st, right? And the nervous system, it interprets this as a threat. And under threat, the body starts to become rigid. So you start to think, oh my gosh, out of fear, I need to become successful, right? And you start to view in this, I need to take a deep breath here. I'm going to take a breath with me. So the nervous system interprets this as a threat. And under threat, your body becomes very rigid. And rigid systems don't flow. Rigid systems create a lot of turbulence. So you have to make sure you're not just doing things out of fear-based action. Just like the ancestral days, right? When we were hunting, when we were gathering, when we thought of something, right, we had a lot of fear based. Okay, if we don't get this meal tonight, we're screwed. We're going to starve. And people are using that fear-based biological action into things. Okay, if I post this video and it doesn't go viral, I'm a loser. So what they have is fear-based action, emotional attachment, and they also have the mental overactivity. When you have these three things, your mind is in a constant state of internal turbulence. Now, why burnout isn't about workload. So burnout doesn't come from doing too much. Burnout comes from sustained tension, sustained pressure, sustained emotional threat. So I've never been burnt out, okay? I've never experienced burnout. I have struggled with a lot of this stuff, especially recently, the whole being emotionally attached to my videos, my content, caring about what people think. But Burnout doesn't come from workload. Burnout comes from sustained tension, which means you're super tense about what you're doing. Sustained pressure, you feel a lot of pressure in order to become successful in what you're doing. And sustained emotional threat. So you can work long hours without burnout. You can work 12 hours a day every single day and have zero burnout because only if your nervous system is actually regulated. But you can also work 2 hours a day, work 1 hour a day, and work 0 hours a day and be so burnt out. And if it's because your nervous system is unregulated and your nervous system is in the turbulent mode. So, ease versus complacency. Effortlessness is often a mistake for laziness. It's mistaken for laziness. So we think if we're not putting a bunch of effort into something, we're just being lazy because we've had this like weird belief which has been programmed into our mind that hard work equals success. But that is not the case. There's a difference between effortlessness and laziness because they're completely opposite. So, ease versus complacency. Complacency avoids effort. Effortlessness refines it. Effortless action is decisive. It's focused. It's engaged. It's not slow. It's not sloppy. It's unforced. You're just effortlessly moving towards things. Effortlessly, you're going over struggles. You're working. Everyone has experienced the flow state. The flow state is effortless action. You're not really over analyzing things, over complicating things. You're naturally just being productive, doing one task, moving to the other, moving to the other. It's very unforced. But tension, perfectionism, and control are what are destroying it. So perfectionism is disguised fear. It's you want everything to be perfect, right? You're stuck in this state. Okay, it's fear. When you want something to be perfect, you're scared that it's not going to be perfect enough to the point where you're going to fail. A lot of perfectionism, it comes from childhood trauma. So if you were a kid and your parents didn't give you attention, and they were very hard on you, you're going to have a lot of that. Okay, I need to be perfect. But perfectionism, it just creates turbulence. It's an attempt to eliminate uncertainty. But the whole world's uncertain. Success is this huge uncertain things. Nothing's certain. And uncertainty, I need to take another sip of tea. I'm losing my voice quick. Uncertainty is unavoidable. So the mind starts to stay tight. Your body stays braced. Your mind feels like tight, right? Everyone knows your mind can feel loose. Your mind can feel fluid or it can feel tight. You have this tightness in your mind. You're not able to think as clearly. So your mind stays tight. Your body stays braced and that flow state starts to disappear because flow only arises when that self-judgment drops. When you stop judging yourself for failing. When you stop being so self-judging and you instead embrace self-love, self-acceptance, self-forgiveness, when you detach yourself from things like posting on social media, when you detach your self-worth, your ego from your business, self-judgment drops, control relaxes. You understand you're in control, but you don't feel like, okay, I need to be in control. You understand naturally you're in control. Attention returns to the present moment. Presence is extremely important. So your attention starts to return to the present moment. Right now, with me, take a deep breath. Focus on this video, okay? What happens is so many people, their attention is elsewhere, right? Their attention is everywhere but in the presence. So you need to return your presence in the moment. When you're constantly thinking, when you wake up in the morning and your mind instantly starts racing, that's you draining energy. That's you not living in the presence. What's the present? Right now, the present's you sitting there watching this video. The present for me is me sitting here filming this video. Understand the presence and live in the presence. Now, presence, it's the biological reset. Presence isn't mythical, it's psychological. When attention returns to your breath, your body, your sensation, the nervous system, it begins to exit threat mode. That's why people do things such as meditation, breath work, visualization. It keeps you in this present moment where your nervous system can begin to regulate and it exits that threat mode and you can be calm, steadfast. Your brain begins to ease up. Your body begins to naturally start to have less tension. It relaxes. The mind quiets, the body softens, action becomes precise again. So we have to live in this present state. And some things we can do to focus on living in the present are meditation, our breath work, being aware of our body, being aware of our senses. One thing you can do right now, pause this video, close your eyes, take some deep breaths. What is your mind? Do this with me. Close your eyes, take a deep breath. What is your what is your body feeling? Like touch. What are you feeling around you? A breeze. What are you hearing? What are you smelling? What are you seeing? You got to understand your senses. And when you can breathe, you can practice breath work. It helps your nervous system calm and realize, okay, I'm not in a threat state. Now, alignment. Alignment is when everything points the same way. Alignment means your goals don't contradict your beliefs, your actions don't betray your values, and your nervous system feels safe while moving forward. Alignment is the key to success. When you can align your life, when you can align yourself to your goal, that's when everything just goes perfectly. So, your goals need to stop contradicting your beliefs. For example, let's say you have a goal and you want to be extremely successful. You want to make 10K a month, right? Your goal is to make 10K a month. But if your beliefs are, I'm not worthy of making 10K a month, I'm not successful, I'm not a person who deserves 10K a month, you're never going to achieve it because you're not aligned. Your actions don't betray your values, and your actions need to be, they can't betray your values. For example, if your value is, I don't sleep in, and you say I don't sleep in, but you sleep in, your brain gets in this weird state where it can't even trust itself. It's unaligned. And what you need to do is you need to make sure your goals don't contradict your beliefs. First of all, make sure your goals stay with your self-belief. You want to make 10K a month, you need to truly believe I deserve to make 10K a month. And the way you're going to do that, you can do some things. Close your eyes. Imagine that dream version of us. I've done this for so long. It's crazy how well it works. You close your eyes. You imagine that dream version of yourself. How does he look? How does he walk? How does he speak to people? What does his day-to-day look like? His habits, his routines. Imagine that so vividly. You need to imagine it so vividly. Now act like that person, and you will naturally begin to become that person because you're aligning yourself to that person. So, your actions need to be, you can't betray your values. So, make sure what you do doesn't betray what you value in yourself, and your nervous system will begin to feel safe when moving forward because you understand I can trust myself. Misalignment, it forces effort, and effort is what causes turbulence. So, when we are misaligned and our goals don't align to our beliefs and our actions don't align to our values, that is when we are requiring so much effort in order to achieve something. So it's not going to move flow. It's not going to move in a flow state. Alignment removes that friction, and we can naturally move in an extremely flow state where everything just naturally seems to happen so easily, right? You post videos, it doesn't really take much work, and these videos go viral. Your business, you kind of just are easily able to put in the hours of work, and you start thinking creative and fluidly, and naturally your business performs better. What we all begin to notice, especially in the business world, is if you're so attached to the outcome and you're so scared, like my business is going to fail, I need to make sure it doesn't fail, you're in that fear state and things don't work as well. You might work harder, but things just don't flow. Your business just performs worse. But if you're like, okay, I don't care, I'm gonna become successful. You're almost a little bit arrogant. I don't really care if this works well or fails, and you just naturally like work through it because it's fun. You perform so much better. You're so much more creative. Your thoughts are so much more clear, and your business performs more well. Now, the reason why high performers appear calm is because high performers aren't frantic. They aren't rushing mentally. They operate from a place of clarity, internal safety, and they trust in the process. For example, high performers. What are some traits of a high performer? They are very clear. They're not scared. They're not in a state of fear. They're not scared, oh, I'm going to mess this up. I'm going to lose this. They naturally are in this state of flow. They're clear. They have internal safety because they trust their own self. So they are very internally safe because they're not worried about other people's validation, judgment from other people. And they trust in the process. They understand. Like for me, for example, I know I'm going to become successful. 1 year ago when I was starting business, I was making $0 and I just got fired at Chipotle. I knew I was going to become successful. When I was posting TikToks for a 1 year straight and I gained 1,000 followers, I knew I was going to be successful. And it's interesting because I knew instantly I was going to be successful. I wasn't in a fear. I knew I was going to be successful. I wasn't in a fear state, and everything was just kind of flowing. I didn't really have to. I didn't put so much of my worth into it, right? And naturally, I was able to. It's so crazy. For 1 year, it took me 1 year to hit 1,000 followers. 3 months later, I hit like 130,000 because I was in a flow state. I look back and I'm like, whoa, whoa, I was in this flow state. What even happened? So when I was able to stop putting so much emotional investment towards it, it flowed. I hit 130,000 followers. I hit my first 10K month in July, and I started to achieve a lot of success. It's very interesting. From August of 2024 to August of 2025, that was a grind period. I was posting every day, hit 1,000 followers in like a year, and my businesses were performing well. In June I had a $2,000 month. In July I had a $10,000 month. My social media began popping off. Everything began flowing perfectly, and because I was in this state of flow, I wasn't scared of failing. I was just flowing through it. And now, boom, whoa! It's like, whoa! 3 months later, whoa! I'm at 130,000 followers. I was just at 1,000. Whoa! I'm making 20K a month. Whoa, whoa! I was just at 2,000. You know what I mean? I was in this flow state. So the reason why high performers appear calm is because they're not emotionally attached. They're not scared of failing. They're just flowing through it because it's effortless. It's an effortless thing. It was so effortless. I was able to put in so much work because it was effortless. I didn't get burnt out because it was just an effortless flow. Interesting. Why force never works long term? Force will provide short-term movement, but alignment provides momentum. Force burns energy, but alignment, it compounds energy. That's why obsession works briefly, but then it all begins to collapse. You can have this period of time, right? Maybe like a week, where you are just putting so much force, but it's so draining. And then the next week you wake up, you're drained, you give into lust, you give into video games, doom scrolling, anything like that. It's because you were able to have a little short-term movement, but that force pushed you all the way back. Now, alignment is where you're naturally just aligned, you're flowing through it. There's no force. There's no force pushing you away. You're just flowing through it. So you need to master alignment. The woo-wee. Woo-wee doesn't mean inaction. I do not know if I'm saying that right, but woo-wee doesn't mean inaction. It means action that doesn't fight reality. It's effort that moves with the system, not against it. And if you can get into this state of woo-wee, effortless action, you are golden. It's where that action, it doesn't fight your reality. A lot of people, their action, they're fighting something. They're fighting something internally. They want to be self-validated. They want other people to look at them highly. They want their TikToks to blow up. They want their business to succeed so they can prove something to other people. But you're just fighting your own reality. And instead, if you can practice woo-wee, it's action that doesn't fight reality. It's effort. You put in the work, but it moves with the system. It flows perfectly. It moves with your self-values, not against it. And that system is so key to achieving success. Understand it, follow it, and you will naturally flow through life. Now, letting go of the outcome. You need to let go of the outcome. This is so crucial. I struggled with it for so long. Letting go doesn't mean apathy. It means I do my best without gripping the result. It means you post a video, you try something new in business and marketing, and it fails. And instead of saying, I'm a problem, I'm the issue, I'm unsuccessful, it's okay. I posted that video. I don't even care how it performed. I didn't even check how it performed. These negative comments, I didn't even read the comments. It's where you genuinely have no care. It's where you just completely have let go of the outcome and you're so focused on the income, the input, and you're so focused on the impact you're leaving to the point where the outcome doesn't matter to you. It's where I do my best. If I fail, okay. If I succeed, okay. I'm not going to participate in self-hatred as I'm not going to participate in self-praise. It's gripping. It's the gripping which creates the tension. It's gripping to, no, I need to succeed. I need to succeed. I need this to work, which creates so much tension in the universe. And tension is what creates turbulence. And turbulence kills flow. So if you can let go of that gripping and say, no, I don't care. I might succeed. I might fail. I'm just going to do what I want to do. Naturally, the universe you'll be flowing through the universe, and that tension's gone. Your flow state. It's like, whoa, everything's working perfectly. There's no more resistance. Everything just flows perfectly because the turbulence kills flow. How many more? Detachment versus indifference. Detachment is where you're committed. It's where you're grounded. It's where you're flexible. You're not worried about anything. You're so detached to the output, right? It's where you can post 10 videos and maybe those 10 videos go crazy viral, or those 10 videos don't go viral and they perform horribly. But your eternal state stays the exact same. Nothing changes because you're committed. You're grounded. You're flexible to failure. You're flexible to success. So many people, they have so much tension to where they They can't let themselves get in this flow state where they can just achieve success because there's so much tension. There's so much tension to where they don't just naturally flow towards success. There's tension of failure, and that tension towards failure creates tension towards success. Now, indifference is where you're disconnected. It's where you're passive. It's where you're not detached. You're disconnected. You're in this weird state of disconnecting, and you're passive. You don't really care. Detachment is not the state of not caring. It's the state of not caring about the emotional attachment to it. You still care because you care about the input. You care about what you're actually doing. Am I helping people? You're not cared. A lot of us focus on the symptoms, right? The symptoms of success. What are the symptoms of success? You're confident. You're hardworking. No, no, no. But what causes that? What causes success? It's detachment. It's being committed, grounded, flexible, caring about the impact you're leaving on your goal. Effortless success, it requires detached commitment. So you need to be extremely detached, but you need to also be extremely committed because you know what you're doing provides a lot of purpose and a lot of value. Identity and emotional weight. When success defines who you are, failure starts to feel like annihilation. So, success, you define yourself as, okay, a lot of us do this. I do this a lot too, and I'm really trying to work towards it, put a lot of my efforts into removing it. It's the point where my success defines who I am. If I'm performing super well on social media, I feel amazing. If I'm performing poorly, I feel horrible. So what happens is people get so emotionally invested, so emotionally invested. You see it in relationships too. They're so invested to where failure feels like annihilation. A breakup feels like annihilation. They feel like the world's over. But that's not the case. That's your internal feeling. The external world, nothing's changed, right? You fail, nothing changed. It's not a annihilation, but when your identity is stable, failure, it becomes feedback. You stop being in this fear state where your nervous system is just so scared, and the failure instead becomes feedback for you to analyze, think analytically, and change what you're doing to make it work better. Effortlessness begins when identity is no longer at stake. So you need to detach your identity to what your business is or your social media or whatever your goal is. Detach your identity from that goal. The nervous system release. The flow state, it reappears in the moment when you're actually in the moment. For example, let's say you're working on art, you're painting, you're just so into that painting to where your mind's so caught up in purely that action of painting. It's where your perceived threat dissolves. You're not worried about threats. Oh, what if I mess up painting, right? Let's say if you're a painter, right? You're not thinking, oh, what if I mess up this painting? What if I do something wrong? You're just painting. It just flows perfectly because your perceived threat dissolves. You're not scared of messing up. Your emotional weight drops. You're not emotionally invested into that painting. That painting doesn't define your success, and your attention stabilizes. Your attention is just in that painting. It's not in your own head. It's you painting. Your mind calms. That is not motivation. That is your basic biology. It's your neuroscience. It's the way your brain acts. The flow alignment loop. This is the real tool. Notice, lighten, lean. Notice, recognize the tension, recognize the urgency or pressure. Sit there. Say right now, notice it. What is giving you tension? What are you attached to? Grab a journal, right? I journal every day. I have actually need to get better at journaling. I used to journal every day. I've been a little off of it, but grab a journal. Journal. What is causing me tension? What do I feel urgent about? What is giving me pressure? Write it down. You need to be able to notice it firstly. Then lighten it. Remove that emotional weight from the outcome. So a lot of people don't realize their tension, their urgency, their pressure, it comes from the outcome. It doesn't come from anything that's real. It comes from fear. It's extremely fear based. But when you can remove that emotional weight from the outcome, you will begin to lighten, and that success, that flow state returns. So remove the emotional weight from the outcome and then lean. Move forward calmly and decisive. Move forward through life in a flowing way. Don't move forward where you're sprinting and you stop and then you're going over a rock and then you trip and then no, no, no. Move forward calmly and decisively. Think creatively. Think analytically, think intelligently, and you can repeat this process in real time. When you feel stressed, sit there, recognize the tension, notice, lighten, remove the emotion away from the outcome, lean, move forward calmly and decisively. You can use this anytime. It's an extremely actionable step. You can use it anytime you need to use the flow alignment loop. Lighten. Why early matters. The earlier pressure drops, the less resistance accumulates. So the earlier you can remove that pressure, the less the resistance stacks up. What happens is people get in this state of pressure and more resistance comes, more and more and more. And this can happen for years, decades. They're stacking up pressure, they're stacking up resistance until the point where whatever they do, it fails. Nothing works, nothing succeeds. So if you can lighten yourself as soon as possible, it'll help you so much, because the heavy action, it compounds poorly, but light action, it compounds rapidly. So when you're doing things that are heavy, it's going to compound horribly, but when you're doing things so easily, the success, it compounds, and before you know it, you're in this flow state. You wake up, whoa, 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 I'm so successful now. When did this happen? Whoa. So you have to get into this flow state where you're not even thinking about failure. You're just doing. You're not thinking, you're doing. Level. Level is returning to center. Before action, you practice slow breathing. You relax your jaw and shoulders. You sit there. You widen your awareness. You're more aware of your actual present state, not just what's going on in your head, because centered action is always more effective. Lean. Lean is moving without force, right? You lean forward directly. You're naturally flowing forward. Direction matters more than intensity. So you need to make sure your alignment is correct. You need to make sure you're aligned with your goals. And you can't just be pushing towards something, right? You can't just be trying to defy resistance. Resistance will always catch up to you. Align yourself with your goals and gently lean towards it. Just make sure your direction is aligned more than your own intensity. Long-term effects. Over time, when you practice this model, you're going to notice your anxiety decreases, your clarity increases, and your confidence begins to stabilize. This is because you are naturally flowing through life. You're detached from the outcome. You can fail. You don't feel any identity, any emotional connection to it. And effortlessness becomes trained. You can train yourself to be effortless. So when you notice, whoa, I'm not effortless, you can train yourself to get into this flow state, to the point where a lot of successful people do this. Julius Petrulis, they take 6 months of pure solitude. They're working because they naturally get themselves in this state of effortless. They don't need validation. They don't need other people. They just work. They just master their craft in silence. A new model of achievement. Success feels effortless when your resistance is low, so you don't have much resistance. You're not fighting it, okay? You're just flowing through it. When something bad happens, you don't fight that bad thing. You flow through it. You laugh it off. When your direction is clear, you have a set goal. You know exactly where you want to aim towards, and you're aligned to it. And the nervous system feels safe. You're not living in fear. You're living in comfort. You understand, okay, my nervous system feels safe. I am safe. You can make your nervous system feel safe so easily. Take some deep breaths and say, I am safe, I am present, I am in the moment. This causes your nervous system to be more present. You're not scared of failure. You're not scared of fear. You're not in a fear-based mode. Not because life is easy, but because you are no longer fighting yourself. So once you practice this model, rewatch this video, take notes, it will completely change your life. So that is how you are going to achieve success and make success feel extremely effortlessly. DM me for help. Download my app in my bio. It'll help you completely change your life. Conquer urges. It's called Rewired. It's my app. It helps many people. But that's today's videos. Thank you all. Follow all my socials. Subscribe. It means a lot. Thank you.